Hi, guys. While we are working on novel studies, or for any student working on a novel study, typically that means in the classroom that your language arts or English teacher is pulling back on the direct instruction, and you are going to be expected to read independently and show your analysis skills and understanding of whatever objectives you've focused on in that particular English class. So to help my students out and any student that might need this, I'm going to be doing a series of videos over just basic reading strategies. So the first reading strategy I'm going to be talking about in this series and in this particular video is visualizing. So good readers visualize. And what does that mean? What that means is that good readers have a running picture show going through their brain as they read. Some teachers have referred to it as a brain TV or a running movie. However you want to think about it, you should be able to picture what you read in your mind as you read it. Albert Einstein once said, "If I can't picture it, I can't understand it." Now, for many individuals that are avid readers that enjoy reading, this might make perfect sense. But as an educator myself, I was well into my career before I was doing some extended learning as a teacher, and I discovered that this is a skill that's actually taught. If you were brought up in a home where your parents read to you a lot as a child and you did a lot of reading, the earliest stages of your life, this skill begins to be developed naturally and you have it. But for students that are reticent readers or who have struggled with reading in the past for a variety of reasons, or they just haven't been exposed to literature, I had to learn that sometimes students need to be taught how to visualize, and that's okay. But what we've learned and what research shows us, what we know in science, is that if you can visualize what you're reading, you have better recall, you can create more connections with the text you are working with, you can ask more questions, and I would dare say that they're deeper, better analytical questions, and you can just overall have a deeper comprehension of the text. So, in my career as a teacher and learning that some students struggle with this and some small children and even older students have to practice this and learn this, I've really taken the time to figure out, okay, how can I teach this strategy, whether it's to my own children here at home or with the teenagers that I have in my classroom. So basically, you just need to practice the skill. If we talk about visualizing as a skill that improves comprehension, you just really need to practice it, and then your brain over time begins to make the connections, and you will discover that you do it organically or naturally without thinking. So what I'm going to go through is practice with two very, very short passages and kind of demonstrate the metacognition or the skill itself. What I would be doing is I was trying to visualize. So here's an excerpt. This excerpt is from Holes by Louis Sachar. It says, Stanley was still digging. His hole was about 3 feet deep, but only in the center. It sloped upward to the edges. The sun had only just come up over the horizon, but he already could feel its hot rays against his face. As he reached down to pick up his canteen, he felt a sudden rush of dizziness and put his hands on his knees to steady himself. For a moment he was afraid he would throw up, but the moment passed. He drank the last drop of water from his canteen. He had blisters on every one of his fingers and one in the center of each palm. Everyone else's hole was a lot deeper than his. He couldn't actually see their holes, but he could tell by the size of their dirt piles. Now, Louis Sachar is an excellent writer, and he's known for using vivid imagery. And so that's part of why I chose this passage. But the point of this is figuring out, what do we focus on? If you read a passage and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I create a running picture in my mind? Start with the verbs and what is being specifically described. So the first thing I notice is that it tells us that Stanley was digging holes specifically, and they're about 3 feet deep. I can pause and I can pull in some prior knowledge and I can imagine that. I know what 3 feet looks like. And then he talks about it being sloped on the edges. I can kind of imagine that. I've dug a hole myself. But now we have to pause and think about the setting. We're getting a lot of details here. He says that the sun's only coming up over the horizon, but he could feel the hot rays on his face, and he has a sudden rush of dizziness. So he's been working hard in the heat, and he's starting to, experience maybe heat stroke. It's an unpleasant feeling. I'm going to focus on where he describes the blisters on his fingers, on his hands. I know what blisters look like. I've had them from working in the yard myself. And then I'm going to focus on this comment he says about the dirt piles. He can't see the other individual's holes, but he can see their piles. So if I pause and I close my eyes and I think about what might I imagine? Now, I can't on a video show you what's in my brain, and I'm not a very talented artist, but I tried to find pictures that kind of described what I was imagining in my brain. Here, I've just found a picture online of a man digging holes, and there's dirt piles, and we have the sun rising up over the horizon, and it looks kind of blistering. So I can imagine kind of the setting, put this together, what Stanley might be experiencing. So the takeaways from that little practice routine is that number one, in order to do this, you need to take notice of all imagery. Stop after each descriptive passage and practice imagining it. Now, guys, if that means you have to stop after every paragraph at first and close your eyes and try to form that picture in your mind, that's absolutely okay. It is okay to be that slow about it. Take notes about your reaction, because when you think about imagery, we know as developed analytical readers, once you get to middle school and high school, that all of that imagery is in there for a reason. And you're going to end up going deeper and thinking about why the author put that in place. And that's going to help you with your analysis later, whether it be with characterization, the setting, or the theme. So as you pause and you think about the imagery that's there and you develop that picture in your mind and you just sit with it for a minute, then think about your reaction. How do you react to that scene in your brain? So quickly, I have one more example. This is from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory from Roald Dahl. And it's about Charlie Bucket going to the chocolate factory. This is a scene when he's in there after he's gotten the golden ticket. Says Charlie Bucket found himself standing in a long corridor that was stretched away in front of him as far as he could see. The corridor was so wide that a car could easily have been driving along it. The walls were pale pink. The lighting was soft and pleasant. "How warm," whispered Charlie. "I know, and what a marvelous smell," answered Grandpa Joe, taking a long, deep sniff. All the most wonderful smells in the world seemed to be mixed up in the air around them. The smell of roasting coffee and burnt sugar and melting chocolate and mint and violets and crushed hazelnuts and apple blossom and caramel and lemon peel. And if you notice there that this excerpt stops with an ellipsis, it means it stopped as he carries on. All right. So the first thing I notice in this passage is the setting, the way he describes it. He's very clear that he's in a long corridor. A corridor is a hallway, a passageway, and it goes as far as he can see. It's wide that a car could have driven up and down it, so as wide as a road, and the walls are a pale pink, soft and pleasant. So I can close my eyes. I would stop and pause there and try to imagine that hallway. And then Grandpa Joe brings in this second level of imagery. This is where Roald Dahl really goes into the sensory details. He goes further than just what you can imagine with sight and really pulls in the idea of what you could smell. And I love how some of these smells are dichotomous, which means that like they don't quite go together, but he pairs them together anyway, like roasting coffee and burnt sugar and melting chocolate. Now, and even mint, if you frequent Starbucks, you've probably had a drink that had all those things in it. But violets and apple blossom and caramel and lemon peel, that's a different set of scents that you might experience with candies or pies. So whenever you have imagery that goes beyond what you can imagine in your mind's eye, that's just as important with visualizing. But you might have to pause and think, okay, where have I experienced that sensory detail myself? So if I were to pause, I honestly, the closest I could get to this would maybe be honestly on a holiday in my kitchen when I'm cooking for Thanksgiving dinner or for preparing a Christmas meal, but I'm also drinking my coffee nonstop so I have the energy to deal with all my relatives and get the food done. So you want to pause and you want to try and connect with the images that are created in the story so that you can best understand them. All right, so you're always going to want to ask yourself the question, what am I visualizing as I read? Now, to enhance this skill or to improve this skill, if you're someone who struggles with it, or even if you're somebody that's good with it, like my own son, he's a very, very good reader, but he reads so quickly that sometimes he misses the details and he can't understand what it means. The analysis piece becomes very difficult for him. So what I would recommend is to do these three things. Number one, read in chunks and pause frequently. Decide where you're going to stop. So are you going to stop when you get started after each paragraph or page, and close your eyes and imagine? Okay, I cannot emphasize that enough. It's okay to practice with imagining. Secondly, draw a picture. Like, just take doodle notes. If you're someone who likes to doodle in class, take doodle notes and to help solidify that scene in your head. And then honestly, talk about it. The way our brain works in memory, when we talk about something, we are reinforcing that memory in our brain. So talk about it. Tell your friend, even if it's a book you're not enjoying, say to your mom, Mom, this book is awful, and let me tell you why. When you talk about it, you are reinforcing your understanding. So it's such a little skill that has such a big impact. We talk about all the time how a picture is worth 1,000 words. A complex idea can be conveyed with just a single still images, and authors do that by using words. So you want to look at those words and figure out how they create that strong image in your brain. All right, so that's it. If you are not one of my students and you're watching this, I am Mrs. Cody Williams, and I love teaching literacy and literary analysis, and I hope you found this lesson helpful.